about the Support tab. Let me now jump into AutoCAD 2013. Let's talk a little bit about file compatibility. All right. This is the third iteration of the AutoCAD program, so we get a new DWG file format. So every 3 releases, Autodesk does that. So last one was done in 2010, part of that was 2007, part of that was 2004. So if you open a 2011 AutoCAD drawing, it will become a 2013 drawing, and you'll have to do a save as to go back to 11. And that, again, is just AutoCAD. Unfortunately, we run Civil 3D. So Civil 3D, we get new objects every release. Because of that, these files will not be backwards compatible. You cannot use the save as command. You will need to use the export to AutoCAD command, which strips out all of the intelligence and converts everything to lines, text, blocks, and garbage. So it does destroy. That's why I made a lot of effort in the CAD Data Manager to give you some tools to be cognizant of which version you're opening these things with, opening these files with. All right. Autodesk 2014, or Civil 3D 2014, which just came out, is fully compatible with 2013. They did not add any new objects in 14. They just added features and functionality. So the drawing files for Civil 3D 2013 and Civil 3D 2014 are compatible. That's the first time they've done that. They're kind of done adding new objects to the software, and they're now working on improving stability and functionality and things like that as we get to 14. But for 13, not backwards compatible with anything. All right, so let's look at some new features. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to try to kind of cluster these. So we're going to start off just looking at the overview, the AutoCAD window, and we're going to talk initially here about the command line has been enhanced, and then they've added what are called in-canvas viewport controls. So let me jump over here, and I got to get to my 2013 project, open file, and it's real nice because I can again just come in here and double-click. And good thing, because I'm in the wrong version, I went 13, and I know you're all saying, hey, stupid, you're on the wrong version. So 13 Imperial, double-click, and it'll fire off my Civil 3D 2013. All right, so we're going to get our interface. I find that Autodesk has done real good going from 11 to 12 to 13, that everything you did in 11 you can still do in 13. There's really not a majorly steep learning curve here. All right, let me change my workspace. We're used to seeing that. I'm going to set back to my Civil 3D default. So now I've got my Civil 3D ribbon tabs. I can bring up my tool space. So now this is what I'm used to seeing when I come in. All right. So a couple of things different that you're going to see. Pretty much everything else is the same. Subtle differences is the command line. One thing you can do now is you can undock the command line, and it behaves more like a palette. You'll see that there is some transparency. As I hover on it, it'll get brighter. As I pull off, it gets darker. Okay. I can also adjust the height. And the neat thing about this, as I start running a command, say I want to do a P-line command. All right. As I pick points, you'll see it puts the history above the command line. And that history, I can set how many rows I want to see. Right now, I've got mine set to 3. When I'm done with my command, after a few seconds, we'll kind of wait, and what will happen then is the command line history will fade away, and there it goes. So now there it's going to fade away, and now I'm back to just my single line. So it really frees up a lot of real estate for your graphics environment. All right, so that's the command line history. So a couple other things you're going to notice. As I did the P-line command, as I started typing, they now have an autocomplete functionality, and there's 2 parts to it. There's a list part, which is what you're seeing right now. So as I typed in P, it's showing me all the commands that begin with P. Right. I want to do polyline, so I'm going to type L. So now it's showing me everything that is just PL. Right. PL is my keyboard macro for polyline, or the P-line command, so that one does highlight. But I can use my arrow keys and move up and down, or I can use my mouse and select from that list. All right. It also does what's called append. So as I type in the I, you'll see that highlighted in blue letters is an N and an E, where it appended based on the first command in the list. It's finished it for me. I don't have to type anymore. I can just hit enter and it will do the command for me. So that's what they call the autocomplete. Okay, so either you get the list, or you can also do the append where it finishes typing for you. And I really like that because so many of the Civil 3D commands are big, long words that, you know, I can't remember the command, but I know it begins with such and such. I can just start typing. Okay. Another neat thing that they've added in, as I start my P-line command, and you have your command line options. Notice that they're kind of highlighted in little blue borders. Well, I can actually now select these with my mouse. So I can go into arc mode, draw my arc. I can come back, go into line mode by length, and now I can draw in my tangent line segment coming off there. So a lot quicker. I don't have to type in A for arc or L for line. I'm doing so much with mouse picks. I can pick that directly. So I really like that. All right, so that's kind of doing with the P-line command. Other thing I like about the auto type is all of the custom programs I've written for the N tools or NV5 tools. Now I began with the prefix NV5, so I can type in NV5, and there's a listing of all the custom apps that I put together for our NV5 N tools program. All right, so just a neat way of being able to type that. A little wrench button here lets you get in and control these settings. So for our autocomplete, there's an option to turn on and off the append. That's where it finished typing it for me. You can also turn on and off the suggestion list. If you just want the append, turn this one off, leave that one on. Okay. The list also shows icons, so you can see what are programs or what are variables. And then you can also turn on and off whether or not you even want to see system variables. Okay. The delay time really applies to the auto append. Do you want it to append automatically, or do you want it to wait a sec as you type to let you finish typing before it starts making all these suggestions? Okay. So that's the autocomplete. Okay, the lines of prompt history, you'll see I set that to 3. If I set that to 6, and now if I type in, I'll do the P-line command. So now as I do my P-line command, you'll see it will show 6 lines of history here instead of 3. So you can kind of set, you know, you obviously don't want to go too big because then you'll start taking up too much real estate and you won't be able to see what's going on. All right, a couple other items on here. This little button here, if you click on that, there's your recent command list. So here's everything I've done prior in the order I did them. And then this arrow over here will open up your command line history. So if you, instead of waiting for it to come back up or doing an F2, you can just click on that and see your command line history. Click that again to close it down. I really like it. I've been working a lot with this. And if you don't like it, no big deal. You bring it back in, drop it down, dock it right back. It'll behave like it did before. You still have your history here of your recent commands. And then you have to do an F2 in this mode to see the full history, but you still get the autocomplete. You know, if I start typing in P-line, I get the listing, or you know, if I start typing in A or whatever, it'll start doing the appending as well. All right, so that's the command line. Other item on there are what are called in-canvas viewport controls. Get rid of that mess. And let me make something 3D so I have something to play with here. I'm going to just do a little box. All right, so I just drew a solid cube or a box. It has height, but we'll play with it in some 3D modes. What we have is the in-canvas viewport controls are these items right here. Okay, there's 3 of them. There's viewport controls, where I can come in and set my viewports. Instead of using the viewport command, I can come in here and say, well, I want 2 horizontal. Nope, I don't want that. Let's maximize that one back. Let me try it again. Let's do 2 vertical. There we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, so I can have that one. Maybe this one I want to orbit around. So you can see there's my cube. All right, so I've got my 2 modes. So that's the first button here. So that sets your viewport configuration. And there's also some items here if I don't want the navigation bar when I'm in that viewport, but I can come over, actually turn them off for both viewports. All right, I didn't know that, so I can turn off the Viewcube for both. All right, custom views lets me come in here, and I'll use this a little bit. I've pre-named all of my views, so I go through my exercise. You don't have to watch me pan around, but I can come in and say I want a northeast isometric. And of course, that's not a good one because I have to find my cube again. But it'll set it to a view, or I can go back and restore one of my predefined views. And then this option here lets me select my view mode. So, this is a 3D object. Maybe I want to view it conceptually so I can see that it is a solid object. I can see the shading. Or if I have materials assigned to it, I can go to a realistic mode and actually see the materials rendered on that. Okay, or we can go back and work on them in the different modes. So that's in Canvas Viewport Controls. If you ever use 3ds Max, they have the same kind of thing there. So they're just kind of trying to implement some of the functionality and make all of their software similar in terms of the way you navigate through it. To go back to a single viewport, I want my plan view here, so I'm going to come in and pick Maximize Viewport, and that'll bring me back to this one. All right, let me jump back into my viewport. All right, other new features you're going to see in 13 are what are called cloud services. And that's all done through your toolbar here. And they have a thing called Autodesk 360. All right. I'm already logged in. You can create an account. You will have, if I were to sign out, we can create an account here that you can create your own Autodesk 360 website. It's done through our serial numbers and our subscription, and you will get an Autodesk 360 page here. So let me click on that and go to my page, and there's a web-based interface that allows you to get to that. All right, so this is what Autodesk 360 looks like. In terms of actually using this, right now I'm not a big fan of it because it's based on user. I would really like to see something that's more based on company or project or whatever. My concern is I'm going to have 10 different people all uploading and sharing 10 different versions of the exact same file. Okay, what they're trying to do with this is they're kind of trying to create the Facebook of AutoCAD drawing files. All right, so in here, the main screen on the home, you get just here is a dashboard showing my activity, and I've been playing just the past few days uploading some files so you can get we can take a look at it. But let me click on that one, and what it'll do is it'll take me to a panel for that drawing, and I do get a little quick view of it, so I can, it's just the initial view. I can't zoom in or out or anything like that, so I can see what it is. I can also then go over to details, and it shows me information about that file. And a couple of things they do is they have these activities, but the Facebook piece or the Twitter piece they're trying to add in is they now got these comments. So anybody I share this file with, I can type comments and we can start having a dialogue and interaction and discussion about this file, and it is all stored in this Autodesk 360. Okay. Down here under sharing, I'm right now the only person that's viewing this one, but I can share this publicly, and there are ways I can invite people to share my file. All right, I'll show a little bit in just a little bit on that. All right, I can also then take to another software they have called Autodesk WS, which is their their internet web-based AutoCAD, and you can actually open up files with this, and you can do some fundamental AutoCAD editing. So you even lost my extras. All right, so I can zoom in, but you'll see I can come in, I can actually draw stuff, so I want to, I don't know, draw a rectangle, pick a point. So there's a rectangle, I can draw a circle. So you can see basic AutoCAD entity, it will create them. I can save them in the Autodesk WS. It'll be saved to my files that are in my Autodesk 360 page. I can then download those and open them up in AutoCAD. Problem is it doesn't really understand my Civil 3D stuff. It has gotten better. Original versions wouldn't even display Civil 3D stuff, but I can now see my profiles and my surfaces and things like that. But if I try to edit it, say I try to move it, it's going to say, hey, custom shape cannot be edited. I also find that when I bring these back into Civil 3D, I get a lot of errors in the file because Civil 3D and WS just don't play well together. It's a great tool, I think, for more of a collaborative environment. People can get in here and they can mark it up and say, you know, here, draw a little bubble around that and put a piece of text on there, you know, put a leader, you know, fix this, and I can, you know, save that. And then here's an option I talked about, sharing it. Here's where I can send it to email to people and say, hey, take a look at this, tell me what you think, and they can all add in their comments or whatever through my Autodesk 360. So that's kind of, you know, don't want to spend a whole lot here on that. So, but that's the WS. The other thing that's neat about WS is that there are mobile versions of it. I have it running on my Android phone where I can actually go in the exact same files. I can open up and view on my phone, or I can view them on my iPad. All right, so we can get to that. If you have a device with GPS on it and you have a site plan, you can say, okay, this is where I'm standing right now, and then as you walk around the site, your little glyph will move around in the drawing file and show you where you're actually standing in the model. Neat little utility. Unfortunately, I can't show that through this, through GoToWebinar. I can't show my phone on that. A few other things that we're going to ultimately investigate in 360 is they do have some other web or cloud-based utilities. A couple of things, if you do renderings, they actually have a cloud-based render farm where you submit your drawing file. They do all the processing. They throw as many processor chips and servers at it as they need, and then in a short amount of time it spits back your final image for you. So we don't, you know, instead of taking 4 hours for you to render it on your computer, you submit it here, they render it. These do cost money. Okay, same thing. They've got some structural analysis for Revit. They've also got InfraWorks. What did I not see? Oh, right. Nope, that's the mobile. They do have, it's called Glue 360, which is like Navisworks, but it's a web-based version, so it's, again, more collaborative. I can have multiple people look at it and rotate it and look at it, conflicts and sharing. So there's a lot of neat stuff coming along with this. All right, let me close that tab. Let me come back in here. So that's the 360 stuff. I do just want to point out one thing in options. If you do create an account, there's an online tab in options. Turn off cloud storage, because what will happen if you're not paying attention, every single file that you open will automatically be copied and backed up to your Autodesk 360 page. All right, so lots of stuff, and next thing you'll go there and there'll be 400 files there. It will be overwhelming, so make sure that is turned off. Okay. The other option here, you can sync your settings, and the purpose of that is if you go to another computer somewhere in the world, you can log into your 360 account and bring all your settings from there to this other computer. We don't work that way. Everybody has their own workstation, their own computer. You don't really need that, but definitely turn this cloud storage off. If you want to add files, there are commands to upload specific files to your 360 account. From there, you can go in and share them with people or invite people. All right. Other item on here is this big X button. This opens up what's called the Autodesk Exchange website, and this is kind of the iTunes, Google Play of AutoCAD. You can actually come in here and download apps. Some you have to pay, so it's just like the App Store, but it's the App Store for Autodesk stuff. Not a whole lot here that's of any excitement. You know, if you click on the Civil, you'll see that you can come in, and there's a few things that are kind of neat. Some of them are a little pricey. Some are real cheap. You know, here's a neat little routine. If you need to pull blocks off your Civil 3D points, some guy wrote a routine and he's selling it for $3. That's a great deal. It's a great tool you can download for $3. You punch in your credit card number, and they will now extract your blocks out of Civil 3D. Okay, so that means I don't have to write it. So just kind of a neat little thing here. I don't imagine us using a whole lot of that. I already have a lot of the similar functionality already built in the N tools or NV5 tools. So, but just kind of make you aware of that. Is a availability. All right. So let's look at more of the features. How am I doing on time? Man, I'm running out of time. I may have to make this a second session. I apologize for that. I get in my head on how quickly I can do this stuff. So I may go just a little bit longer here. What I want to show is just some other neat little tricks here. Is the UCS icon is actually now an object in the drawing. So you'll see as I hover on it, I can highlight it, I can pick it, I can grip it, I can drag it around, I can move it. It has grip menus, so I can say, well, move in a line, so as I move it to my 3D object, you'll see that the XY axis, or the XY plane will line up with whatever face I'm hovering on, so it'll automatically flip it. So I can say, well, put it on that one, but now I want to move the origin only, so now I can move it and say I want to be midpoint here, so now I can do a circle at 0, 0, and I can now draw a circle. At that point, it's planar to this face, but I can move it over here. I can also get and change my x-axis direction, or I can rotate. Say I want to rotate about the z-axis, so now I can stay in that plane, but I can rotate it. It just makes UCS manipulation so much easier. So I'm going to go back to world coordinates. I hover on the origin, pick world, and I'm now set back to world coordinates. So some real neat tools for controlling our UCS icon. Oops, and I killed my PowerPoint. Right. Jump back into that. All right. Some other features here. Annotation Monitor. Do that. Now I'm closing that down. So this is where I use my custom views. So I got one set for Annotation Monitor. What it is, I've got some dimension text here, and that's really what it's going to look at is dimensions. And Annotation Monitor, what it'll do is if I turn that on, and it's this new button, little plus sign here, is it'll show me any dimensions that are no longer linked to the object. So there's a broken reference to my dimensions. So this one's good. So if you see, if I grab that one and drag my box out, that one updates. But if I grab this one, you'll see that it doesn't update. Okay. So what you can do is you can put your cursor on the glyph here. I'll pick it, and then I can reassociate it. So it'll highlight that one. That one is good. So I'm going to hit enter for next, and then I'm going to say take that one, and I'm going to use just an endpoint snap, and I will link it, and you'll see that that little glyph goes away, and my dimension is now linked correctly back to the object. Okay, so that's real neat way of doing that. Some other things, snap now. Don't you hate it when you're using snap and you want to pick something and it's not on the grid? So let me jump back in here and let me turn on snap grid so you can see my grid, and then I'll turn snap on. What's neat about this, if I want to move something, this is where snap used to give us a problem, is as long as I'm in a selection mode now, you'll see I'm not on the grid. So it allows me to pick my objects, and now when it's going to ask me for points or displacement in this case, you'll see my cursor now is on the grid. So real nice functionality. I always get to the point where, you know, I can't pick it because it's not on the same spacing. So that's a real neat little feature. Layer Manager, they've only added in some additional shortcut menus where you can now do some of the viewport controls like freeze in current viewport or freeze in all viewports. They've added some new menus there. So I do want that. You come back in here. So that's been added in there. MultiFunction Groups, they've added more. So again, let me come in here. I got a view for grips. So we'll see, like when we pick a line, you put on there I can stretch and lengthen, but they've also added in for leaders, and that's not linked to an object. So my M leader, I can now come in here and hover on here. There we go. So I can stretch it, I can lengthen it, or I can quickly add another leader. Let me turn F8 off. So I got my grid still on. There we go. So I can add a new leader. rather quickly, or I can hover on there and I can say add a vertex. Or I can hover on a vertex and add one in between, or I can say remove that vertex, or I can say come in and remove that leader. Okay, so real quick editing. Hatch patterns, same kind of thing. I now get multifunction groups for a hatch pattern, so I'll hover on the center. I can change the angle, I can change the scale. Real nice like this here, I got my bricks. I want my bricks to line up to the wall, so I'll just say change the origin point. I'll grab the end there. So now my bricks match here. For dimensioning, it's real nice. I can come in and select on the dimension. I can hover on the text, and I now have all these different options for moving my text. All right. Well, I want to move it with a little leader, so I'll put my text down there. Okay. If I grab the grip on the dimension line itself, I can do continue dimensions. So I can come in, and it'll now make an additional dimension. I can say go to there. Or I can hover on it and do baseline dimensions, where it'll start on this one here. So let me come here, and we'll go to the end there. And I'll go ahead and throw this wall into my series of dimensions here. So very quickly, I can create either continue dimensions or do a baseline dimension and throw those all in just by doing it off the grip menu. All right. Tangents and perpendicular object snaps. When I'm using grips, I get a lot more functions for that as well. So let me, come on. Go to that one. So I got is just some basic objects here. But say I come in and I grip it, and I want to move this vertice, and I do a perpendicular O-snap. You'll see it'll go perpendicular to that grip, but now it'll also calculate perpendicular to the adjacent grip. So I can go perpendicular to there, or I can come perpendicular to there. So I can actually take this line segment and continue it down to where the whole segment will then be perpendicular. If I come over this fourth grip, because it's not adjacent, I don't get a perpendicular solution for that one. Right, so let me come in and grab that one. So I can pull that one down and say I'll grab that grip, and then again go perpendicular, and excuse me, I don't want to go that. So I hover on there, and I can say perpendicular to that. Okay, so let me undo that. Put that back. Same thing with tangent O snaps. So I can say do a tangent. So I get the solution relative to this grip. I can do a solution. There we go. That solution coming tangent off my red grip. There's a tangent off the other end. Come this way, there's the tangent off the red grip. And then again off the other end. So I can hold this end here and say, well, put this one over here to where it is now tangent. Where in the past I couldn't do that. I could only do tangent relative to the grip I had selected. All right. Fillet chamfer now have a preview, and same thing, offset has a preview. So I can come back here and play in this mode here. So if I do the fillet command, and we'll set my radius as 2. So now as I hover on, all right. Well, that sure didn't do anything. Hang on. Fillet. Don't you hate that? All right. So now I need, bear with me. Sure, I gotta make sure there's not a variable. Anyhow, it should be showing us a preview like that. And why it's not? Fillet radius. All right, I broke my computer for some reason. All right, so let me try the offset. We'll just do 1. There we go. So I'm getting the offset preview. So offset, as I move my cursor from one side to the other, it'll show me what that offset shape looks like. So we put that in there. So I'm not sure why that went for me. Right. So, okay. A few other, and then I think what I'll do is I'll wrap up for now. So we'll take the rest of this and throw it into another session here, since I wasn't quite sure. The last few things I'll look at is the property window. Now, when you change anything in the property from a list or one of those drop-down lists, it'll actually preview that change on the object. There's also a frame selection variable which lets you keep image frames, extra frames, any type of framed object like a DWF or a PDF insert where you have the frame. You can turn the frame display off, but if you're doing a command where you need to select it, it still lets you select it, so you no longer have to toggle frames on and off in order to pick images or reference DWS or PDFs. You set frame selection to 1, you can turn your frame display off, and you can still pick them. And then the last thing I'll show you is the hatch ribbon tab. The contextual hatch ribbon tab now lets you pick multiple hatch patterns. So we'll finish up with that. So property editing preview. So let me bring up my properties command here. What I'll do is I'll select this new polyline I picked here. So we'll put, and say I come in, let's look at color. And it has to be one of these drop-down lists. So as you see, as I hover through the options on this list, the object will preview and show me what it looks like. Once I get back to the default value, you'll see the grips show up again. So while I'm moving through, without the grips, I know I'm in the preview mode. And I can do the same thing by layer. So as I pick on different layers, it will highlight and show me here's what that object will look like as I go through the different layers. Okay, I can do it through line types. So as I go through, I can get the preview, and I like hidden. So once I select it, it'll actually apply that to the object. It does not work on fields where I type in values. There's nothing to preview here. Okay, so same thing. It won't preview any coordinate change or any elevation change. Okay, so I have to type the number in, pick outside, it'll then move that. Okay, but anywhere, again, where we have these lists, it will show that update for me. Okay, same thing if I have an object selected and I want to change the layer here. So as I hover, it will show me the layer change. So anywhere, again, where I have that drop-down list. And then the last thing I'll look at is the hatch, and we'll call that good for today. So that was under grips. So I've got these two hatch patterns. In the past, in 2011, it would only let you edit one hatch pattern at a time with the hatch edit tab, but now I can select multiple hatch patterns. I come in and I can say, let's make them both yellow. Okay, or I can change my pattern style. Let's do, there we go. I was going to go earth, and then maybe increase my scale a little bit, and they both will update simultaneously. Maybe rotate them a little bit. There we go. All right, so I can use areas where I've got multiple hatch patterns. It's real nice now. I don't have to edit one and then copy properties. I can just pick them all and then simultaneously edit them through the hatch screen. All right, well, that's all I've got for now. I've got a couple more things I wanted to show, but go through and look at the handout. What I'll do is next presentation, I'll finish up with the AutoCAD features, things like associative arrays. Finish up on the PowerPoint here. So some of the new array functionality, I actually created an array object. I'll take a look at that in the future. Some text enhancements. You can now strike through text, so not only can you underline text and overline, but they have a strike through. The draw order text to front command will now not only move all your mtext and text, but it'll also grab all of your multi-leader objects and bring them to the front as well. mtext background masking that keeps the default, so you set up one mtext, you can do it to the other. A few other things. Ncopy and Overkill have been moved from Express Tools to base AutoCAD. Better DJN support, a few other variable changes. 3D modeling enhancements really don't apply to us. I'm not going to really demo anything here because we don't do a lot of 3D modeling. We do corridors and surfaces and alignments and profiles. We don't do a whole lot of solids. This is more for the architectural and mechanical fields where they are building solids on there. I just want to finish up, talk about the error, that little phantom dialog. We get this actually both 2011 and 12 because something in 13 steps on 2012 and 2011. Again, this occurs while or after exiting the program. Our files are saved okay. What just happens is you're not paying attention, you get a few of these left on your desktop. Okay. And the other bug we're seeing is that the Viewcube is rotated or upside down when you open older drawing files. So if you take a drawing from 2011 and open it in 13, something is going on where it's getting the Viewcube orientation incorrect. What you can do is go into the geographic location command, and what you do is there's an angle option. You set that to 0, and then there's a z-axis direction. You set that from -1 to +1, and it'll flip it over so it's upside right. So that's, again, the geographic location command will fix that. All right, well, that's pretty close to everything I wanted to show. I do apologize for going over about 7-8 minutes here. Again, I get in my head what we can cover on these. If you have any questions, I'm not going to take any at this time. Obviously, you guys need to get back and start being billable again. But feel free to email me. Look through, again, the handout that I showed you available on the support page. I will be adding more detail to that as time progresses. I do plan on recording individual pieces of this presentation and linking them to that document as well. In a couple of weeks, I will send out invites to the future sessions for looking at the Civil 3D objects. In the meantime, the handout does have just a listing of items that is new to Civil 3D 2013 and actually 12 and 13. And I do encourage you to look at some of the new feature workshops and items available in the help documents to see a little bit more detail on this. All right. Well, that's all I had to show. I thank you for your time this afternoon. Hopefully you saw some compelling items here to want to upgrade to 13, and at the same point I hope you saw that, hey, that looks pretty much like what I'm doing in 2011 right now. Doesn't seem to be too big a deal to make the update. All right, well, that's it. I'm going to sign off. I hope you all have a good day and look forward to our next session. Goodbye.